I would suggest going around back this way just to avoid the cables.
No problem.
If you go back around the outside wall, that'll help
I
with
have
avoiding
to have
cables.
the entire place where you can be recorded. I have to have notices.
Well, really?
Yeah, and that's specific to Wisconsin. Oh yeah, Behringer.
I didn't buy that. That was our tech director at Kettle. He is all about saving money. And so he'll usually go
They're
the,
okay as long as the power supplies last.
yeah, we had, what was it? We had a power supply start smoking on us several years ago, but it wasn't a Behringer one. It was, I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, that was in the PAC too, our Performing Arts Center. All right, we're gonna get started. I'm Derek Rabbers. My name tag kept falling off, so I'm just gonna put it here. If you Google me, you'll probably find where my page is at in the KMLHS website. So if you have any questions, my email is in there. I could also give you a phone number or an email to get in contact with me. Also, this one we are live streaming this sectional right now, so this one's already live. In case you care to know, the other ones I'm just going to go through it and get to the live streaming part, but not actually live stream it. So anything I do here will be also up on the live stream in case you want to go back and look at it. I'm also going to be using this presentation to take you through how I use OBS, because that's primarily what we use at KML. Your other options, vMix has been talked about a lot. I had a student a couple years ago, he's now graduated, now he's at Bethany. He's basically running their broadcast. He's doing the broadcast major through Bethany in Mankato, and from what I can tell, he's kind of just risen through the ranks very quickly. But he found vMix in high school, and he was excited about the different features that it has. I have not used it enough to be any authority on it. OBS is a different story. I have used that in a lot of use cases. These are some of the other live streaming services other than OBS that I've come across. All the other ones are, you have to pay for it just some amount, maybe except for the OneStream Live Studio, the Chrome extension. But OBS is completely free, open source. Has a lot of different plugins and add-ins that you can do, and some people like that, some people don't like that, they just want everything included. But if you like to be able to tinker and change things, OBS is yours. And with OBS, you're kind of just limited as far as like your streaming resolution. Ken kind of talked about that already. You're kind of just limited with what the graphics card is. So I've only ever streamed in 1080p because that's the only graphics cards I've had. And to my eye, looking at a 4K video versus a 1080p video, I just don't see the benefit in the extra cost that it would take and the extra work. So we've been happy with 1080p so far. By the way, as you already heard, I'm a teacher. I'm pretty used to people interrupting me in class. I'm also very used to students just dead-eyeing me the whole class. So if you want to see something done, because this is a nice little smaller group, I can easily break away with what I'm talking about to show you something, because we've got OBS open and live streaming right now.
Could you just put that back up with the different? That way I don't have to write so much down.
And I have, if you find this live stream, or if you ask Ken for the link, or I could share it with you too, because I have access to his YouTube channel, I have linked these slides to the live stream for this. So it should be just in the description. You can bring up the slides, and it should be open for everyone.
Do most of these software versions allow you to do that type of linking and adding on the extra information that you can go to if you wanted to?
What do you mean exactly?
Well, you said on the live stream you've got the end information linked.
That's a YouTube thing.
That's
just
a YouTube
I just
okay.
pasted a URL, because with Google, I'm just using Google Slides. You can make a public link and I can put that in the description, and people can. I don't think it's an active link, unfortunately. I don't think. You might have to have you might have to have a certain type of account to do that, and someone can tell me if they know. But you can just put a link in there, and people can copy and paste it.
Because I can see that being really handy if you're live streaming your church service, and they go, "Well, I wonder what these people are really all about."
Yeah, like as a default, put your
Yeah.
in your description, putting your church's website and any other pertinent information that you want to put down there is a very good idea. That's where if you have the manpower for this, it's nice to consider just like a communications director who's in charge of all the social media, who would kind of oversee that. I'm more on the technical side of things, but as far as like the content creation and the reaching out with a specific message, that might have to be another person. At least that's how I would suggest, because it's a lot to try to take on both. With the OBS architecture and the software architecture, as Ken already talked about, you have to get everything into a computer. And the computer then does all of the processing, and then it also encodes it and sends it out to YouTube, Facebook, or whatever platform you're streaming to. There are some downsides and there are some benefits to doing this way, and hopefully that'll become evident as we go through. Ken, I'm gonna hedge and say that Ken maybe oversold my computer. I'm gonna bring up the stats for you right now. I don't know how, and I used to, like, when I was in high school, I was always very kind of keeping up with, like, okay, how fast are these processors nowadays? And I've completely fallen off. So if any of you know, like, what different standard Intel or is it AMD or AMD? AMD, yeah. What those processors are, this computer that's running OBS right now has only 4 gig graphics card, 16 gigs of installed RAM, and it's running an Intel i7 at 3.2 gigahertz, which I think is a pretty decent processor. This computer is a hand-me-down from the what department was using it? Whatever department was doing like 3D modeling and CAD. So they upgraded their computers. Our technology director said, "Hey, I've got these computers. Would you want one for streaming?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take one, because then that'll just help alleviate some other things that I was doing." Now,
I was going to say, so like from a spec standpoint, it really doesn't, as long as you get one thing right, the specs don't matter quite as much as you might think. You don't need the latest and greatest.
No.
Hand me down is fine.
Yep.
The hardest, there's just one thing that's hard for the computer to do with OBS, and that is to create the stream to go out.
The encoding part of it.
The encoding part.
Yeah.
That's what pushes the hardware a bit.
Yeah. Right now we are using anywhere from 15 to 20% of the CPU for this live stream. That would go up only really if we were trying to push it out to multiple platforms. So if we're going to, and you can do this in OBS with an add-on or a plugin, you can, for free, just as long as you figure out how to do it, send it out to both Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. As Ken's mentioned, I think he talked about this a little bit with the internet speed. You got to make sure your internet can handle it as well as your computer, because now you're sending 4, 5, 6,000 kilobits for each stream, so you're doubling your uploading capacity. I have also used this computer, this laptop, with OBS, and I've done, I'll tell you what I did with it. So this one, 16 gigs of RAM, 128 megabyte graphic card, so not a really beefy graphics card. 11th generation, it's only 2.42 gigahertz, which is lower processing power than this older one, if I understand processors. The craziest thing I've ever done with this laptop was back in the spring, where I had this plugged into 3 NDI cameras. And no, actually it was 4 NDI sources, because it was 3 cameras and another computer for a presentation. And I was using this to send those NDI feeds up into a we have this nice new field house gym at Kettle, and it has a Daktronics, think like big display board. What do they call them? I can't remember what they do.
Big LED.
Big LED screen, yeah, and it takes an HDMI feed. It'll take SDI or HDMI, and so I was using this computer to run that part, and this computer was also pulling from those NDI feeds and running the live stream. So this computer was handling 4 NDI feeds, and it was not sending a live stream, but it was processing and encoding all the NDI and sending that out of an HDMI into that display board. And it handled it just fine. I don't think I went more than maybe 20 or 30% of the processing power for this computer. So what kind of computer do you need? It can be really quite a lot of anything, just as kind of pay attention to the processing power and the graphics card, I would say would be the biggest things. You don't need a $2,000 gaming computer. Or if someone in your congregation can make you one, you can try to spec one out so that it does the job.
The 2 things I typically recommend, the 16 gigabyte of RAM, and then what both your laptop and that computer can do is the hardware encoding. So it's a setting in OBS, so you can use software and let the computer processor do it, or the computers have dedicated hardware for some of that encoding and decoding, and if you let that, then that's where you'll see that it'll use like 10 to 15% regardless of how many you have coming and going, because it's not actually using your processor for a lot of that, and it's fine. But I was using a 2012 computer for doing live, but as long as it has it's using hardware, it was enough.
Yep.
It did great. It was just, it got old and started crashing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Different problem.
Yeah. Now I was using a different computer with a different software, Livestream Studio, which I think has gone under, which is kind of a shame because it's kind of a nice program. It was a paid one though. But we had a problem where we were maxing out the CPU, and we were like, what is happening? Because it was a pretty beefy computer, and it was I think it was a frame rate thing where it was, all the cameras were set to, I can't remember if it was 30 frames or 60 frames per second, and then the default program was trying to convert all that, and it was 5 cameras coming into it at once. And trying to do all that, we were maxing it out, so that was no bueno for that computer until we figured it out. Bare minimum setup. So this is kind of, if you are just getting started, you're going to need a camera of some sort. We've got 2 different cameras in here. We've got the Canon that Ken let me borrow. This was his original first nice camera at least, for the sanctuary here at this church. And this has a HDMI output, and it's going into the computer. I'll talk about how it's going in just a second. Actually, right now. So you need to get that HDMI signal into the computer, and we can talk about other inputs in just a second. But for HDMI inputs into a computer, you can buy pretty cheap dongles, capture cards that's HDMI in, USB out into the computer. Your mileage may vary with how dependable they are. My tech director just bought me some like $20 ones off of Amazon way back when the pandemic was starting, and we were trying to figure out how do we live stream from different locations that we needed to, and they were really bad. Half the time they'd become disconnected, so I upgraded those pretty quick. If you're going to do a permanent setup or a semi-regular setup, I would see if you can invest in a PCI slot in your desktop. I think that's the exact same one that we have in this one. 4 HDMI inputs that you can take, and that's a link off of B&H Photo. So that's a pretty recent price, around $300. He's mentioned other ways to get and these Fumaco ones have USB out, USB 3 out. So if it's close enough to the computer, you can just use a USB, and it brings it in, kind of like treats it like a webcam of sorts, and that works just fine. That's still 1080p. 8 times, maybe even 9 times out of 10, when we are running into issues with a live stream, it's an audio issue. It's not a video issue. It's really easy to take a camera and plug in the HDMI, and really easy to get that into OBS. Audio is a whole nother thing, because not so much of getting it into OBS or any other thing, but really just of all the variables that come with audio. And when you go and hear Philip's presentation, just keep that in mind. I'm sure he'll talk to you about all the different things. My own 2 cents is every time you're hitting a new device, I mean, even within this device, and that's kind of why I like the older analog ones, is because you can see the signal path. It's hitting that input, which hits a gain stage here. You're controlling the overall gain, and then it hits the EQ. This one also is nice because it has a built-in compressor. You can add some compression to the audio, which takes your audio signal and kind of squashes it so it's not as loud and it's not as soft. It's more leveled. Then you've got your fader, and then after that it's got to get into the computer, and so sometimes you have to take the audio from a board in your church and get it then to another board or another USB audio interface, which has its own gain stages, its own input volume, and own settings. So my suggestion is get it into the computer as in short a chain as possible. The more stuff it's hitting, usually that just is more variables for more problems. This top one is kind of a bare minimum Behringer USB audio interface to XLR. They're kind of dual ones. You could plug in a 1/4 inch or XLR input there, and it's just got a couple different settings, probably for like line and mic level, and maybe it's line and insert, and then there's a pad as well. If you hit the pad, and that just brings the input level down even more if you're clipping the input there. But then there's a USB out for that. That'll go into your computer, and then you bring that in as an audio source. Right now, I've got this board going into the computer, and under settings and audio, I've selected that one as a auxiliary audio. So it knows to pull that audio in and to leave it there regardless of what scene I'm changing it to or what camera I'm going to. Getting a mixer that has a USB audio out is really nice, because then again that's one less thing you have to worry about. We did an upgrade with our system at Kettle, and we've got 2 different boards and they're linked digitally, so we can pull from the same inputs. We don't have to like do a physical mic send from one board to the other, which is really nice, because then I don't have all that added noise from just going from one preamp to the next. It also has some added complexity that makes it a little challenging at times. So this is what it looks like in OBS. OBS is scene driven. I've done very minimal effort here in setting this up and making it look nice. These scenes are right now just different cameras. So scene 2 is this camera, and it's brought in. I brought it in by hitting add, and this was a video capture device. So I've got the 4 different inputs from the HDMI input here, and that's what I've used to bring that in for there. Just this input is this camera right here. And right now it's being brought in with HDMI, so this is just another HDMI input. But we'll get to this camera more later because it can do more than just that. This one was just a screen capture in case I wanted to show something. This one was just a blank one in case I wanted to show adding something else. At this point, do you have any questions or anything you want me to show you in OBS for adding things or doing anything else in particular?
Is it everybody using OBS? Is that like the standard?
I have no stats But because it's free and pretty powerful,
confident in it.
I'd say it's probably
Good choice.
pretty high up.
Right towards the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
Free, okay.
Yeah, it's the administrative approval process. It's
Right.
pretty short when it's free.
When it's free, yeah. And I used Livestream Studio first, which is more like graphic and camera input driven. And when my tech director was telling me about OBS, how it's all scene driven, like, I don't know if I like that. But once you just take a little bit of time to set up your scenes, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the deeper, no, that's not that deep, it's just kind of like little hacks here and there that make it really useful and quick to use. Now I teach high schoolers how to use this, and you might argue that like the younger generations are all technology gurus. They are not technology gurus. They grew up with everything that's easy to use, that's really ergonomic. They haven't used a lot of stuff that's in depth. So if I can teach high schoolers how to use this, you can teach a lot of people how to use this. It just takes some at least one person with expertise or the drive to learn how to use it, and they can teach a lot of different people how to use it.
So, are any of you using OBS or operating it at all?
At the moment, for our setup, we actually go through it, we have our stuff going through YouTube.
Just direct, okay,
Yeah.
direct.
I'm gonna go on then. Streaming into YouTube from OBS. Just some things to keep in mind if you're getting started. If you're making a new YouTube channel, you will have to wait 24 hours before you can stream. Did anyone have any fun stories about not waiting that time? I know I did. There was a grade school basketball tournament. They made a brand new live stream channel, or a new channel for it. They did not make it 24 hours ahead of time. So when we tried to log in, to use the credentials there, it would not let us stream. When you are going to you can, I don't know why it goes to this one. Oh yeah, because this is my other channel. Let me show you with the school one here. So this is Kettle's YouTube channel, and I haven't done it yet, but I'll go ahead and schedule all the main live streams like concerts and other events. Now you don't have to just like schedule them out all that far ahead of time. In fact, some people have said like, why do you schedule them out so far? I've been told they want them scheduled out like way far in advance so they can share the specific links that's all set to go. Some people have said, well, why don't you just like for different chapels or things like just schedule it the day of or just a couple minutes before, and then people know where to go. There are different schools of thought for doing it. A lot of like big YouTubers, if they know a live stream is coming up, they'll do it like 24 hours in advance and then push that out to get people's attention. Let's say we do this. So I went ahead and scheduled a stream. You need to either link your account with OBS or use a stream key and a URL. With the other computer that we have it linked so that in OBS, instead of just seeing a streaming button, I'll also see a manage channel or manage streams button. And when I bring that up, it brings me all the streams that I have scheduled. And so when I do chapel every day at Kettle, I'll just hit that button, hit the day's stream for chapel, and then it automatically sends, and it'll automatically start streaming, sending the stream into YouTube, and then I just have to go into YouTube and hit go live. There used to be a go live button in OBS, so you could do it almost completely through OBS. I'm not sure if there was some updates one side or the other that disallowed that or not, but I typically do hit go live in YouTube OBS has tried to make it so that you can do it almost entirely on their side of things. With OBS, you don't just have to put one camera, you can do picture in picture. So if I take this scene that I'm in right now, and if I want to add another camera into this scene, I'm going to add an existing one. I can't remember which one I want to do. It's this one. There we go. So this is the second camera, and I can just pull it back and put it where I want to. So you can use this for multi-camera view. You could also use this for if you have a computer with slides. You can put the slides in OBS. You can have both things shown at the same time. One thing that was, what did I want to do? I wanted to mention, if you go to studio mode, you can bring up the program. This is what's being sent out to YouTube, and this is the preview, what you have queued up. And one thing that we found is nice for hymns, if you have the hymns on slides, and I think there used to be a way you could do this faster. You could set the opacity, but you can crossfade the two, and so you can have a view of the congregation in the background, and then the slide of the music and the words taking up most of the view, most of the opacity, but you can still kind of see the congregation in the background instead of opposed to just having a screen with the words and the music on it. Oops, that was way too far. With the, you do have undo. You can do Control Z, so if you mess something up. And they didn't always have that. That was a big add-on, and people were really liking that. If you needed to crop an image, and I always forget if it's Alt or Control, if we're going to find out here. If you hold down Alt and bring in these things, you can crop the image. So if you just want someone's head, whoa, sorry. Make sure that's selected. And I found that useful. Again, this is a little bit more niche, but if you live stream a sporting event and you want the scoreboard, you can put a camera on the scoreboard and then you can crop out everything except the scoreboard, so it actually looks somewhat decent. I don't know how many of you would need to do that, but I've used crop quite a bit. Hotkeys is another really useful thing. It allows you to basically do anything that would be a mouse click, finding with the mouse and doing, but having it be either a key or a combination of keys on the keyboard. So, where would that be? That's in settings. Hotkey. So if I wanted to, and this is for making things really simple for people. So let's say I want scene 1 to be number 1, scene 2 to be number 2. Let me just apply that. Hit OK. So now if I hit 1 on the keyboard, it goes to scene 1. If I go 2, it goes to scene 2. And as you can see, there's so many things you can do with the hotkeys. You can go live, record. All of this can be done with a specific key on the keyboard. And so instead of having to instruct people in places to click, you can just set up hotkeys. And you can take it one step further. You can get something like a Stream Deck. Stream Deck kind of works with hotkeys. You kind of have to set up your hotkeys in OBS, but then the Stream Deck gets programmed so that that hotkey is a specific button on that device, and then you can change the graphics too on there so that it's very ergonomic and easy for people to see that, okay, this button starts the stream, or this button starts the recording in OBS, this button takes you to camera 1, camera 2, so on and so forth. You can also, because these things are layered here, you can just, you can turn them on and off. So if I want to get rid of that one, but I don't want to delete the source, I can just hit the eyeball and turn it on and off. So if you've we use that a lot because sometimes for chapels, the pastor or the teacher, they'll use the slides a lot, like they got a ton of pictures and things to show, so we'll keep the slides up the whole time along with the pastor, the presenter. Other times they'll just read the lesson and then they'll just give a little homily or message, then okay, we don't need the slides anymore, get rid of those. Alright, advanced techniques. We are getting to the end here. How are we doing on time?
1 o'clock-ish.
And we go until 1:30. Perfect. NDI cameras. So NDI is a way of sending video over the network. It is a way of sending video over the network. That is another way that this camera can work. So I can add, and this is an add-on in OBS. This is NDI stuff doesn't come in built in, but it is free to get. What was it that I had to download? It was this Distro AV NDI. Just search for that, download it. When I had to put it on this computer in the spring, it was not working. And I was getting so frustrated. I was like, I'm gonna figure this out before I call my tech director, because I know he could figure it out, but I wanted to challenge myself. It was I think I did some either Googling or AIing. It was a firewall setting. Because NDI is network, you have all the thorny problems of network stuff now to contend with, IP addresses, subnet mask, and the like. But once you get it set up, it is quite nice.
So what is that? I'm sorry, what did you have to download again?
That was called Distro AV. Looks like this.
Gotcha.
And that's for downloading on the computer that runs OBS, so that OBS can use NDI feeds. Because Ken has all his NDI cameras on the network here at church, I used to be able to, I can bring up all the different cameras he's got plugged in. So this is from in the hall out there. There is, so it's not just the advantage of it is that you can use just a single network cable to give you power, because it's PoE, to the camera, and you can get the signal from it, and you can control it all through the Ethernet. So it's really convenient. It's just the thorny problem of setting it up. You may need some people with some networking expertise to help you set up. The Famaco one was actually pretty easy to set up. It didn't require a lot of IP stuff. It kind of came out of the box just ready to talk to the computer, ready to set up. There is a web controller that, apart from doing a lot of different things, you can control it from the computer. So right now I'm moving the camera around just using these controls here in the computer. It's the same thing, it's receiving the same commands as if it were a joystick on a controller. I was trying to think of the other ones. You can do a lot longer cable runs. I think you can go up to maybe 200 or 300 feet with Ethernet before you need another switch before the degradation, as opposed to, and it's a lot, correct me if I'm wrong, but Cat 5 or Cat 6, Cat 5e or Cat 6 is a lot cheaper per foot than HDMI cables. So when they were talking about, like, put in all the conduit you need, if we're gonna run some cable, maybe run another cable. If you're gonna run that second cable, just some nice Ethernet, because you can pump so much. You can just do internet, you can do a network, you can set it up for NDI cameras, you can do so much with Ethernet. It's kind of a jack of all trades, but it can do really well with a lot of different things as well. So
The standard limit on Ethernet cable is 100 meters.
100 meters, yeah. So 300 feet-ish.
Yeah.
And that's just to the switch. So if you have network infrastructure, It's not how far you are away from the computer, it's really how far you are away from a network switch.
Yeah.
So, but the beauty is, if you're like in this room, there's an Ethernet jack in the wall. Just plug into it. Like you just connect to the existing network, and they do talk about in some forums that you have to have fancy network switches and routers and. Like, it probably matters.
It's just got to be a
little bit.
gigabit switch
Yes, it
to
has
handle
be
the bandwidth.
Correct.
That's about all.
Well, then you have to be careful on the PoE, because a lot of those switches will have very low PoE power.
Yeah.
You
Interesting.
gotta make sure there's enough wattage in it
Yeah.
if you're gonna do multiple
Yeah.
devices.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You'd have to check that.
Yeah, cameras are these are typically lower on the lower end
Kinda
of
figured,
things, but yeah, you need, especially if you're plugging into an existing one that's doing like the whole phone system or something.
Yeah.
You run out.
And you can plug it into an existing network. You can also just set it up on its own network, so it's not talking to the internet. It's not talking to anything else. You're not visible to anything else. It can just be hardwired on its own separate thing if you don't want other people to be able to see it. But anyway, OBS Ninja is a fun one. So they've been talking about like bare minimum setups, or like if you want to show something, you don't want to have to set up a specific camera for it. You can bring in your phone into OBS, your phone's camera into OBS using OBS Ninja. If you just in a web browser, I typically use Chrome on my on my phone. If you enter in OBS Ninja and you click on it, you'll see this. So you'll have a couple different options. You can create a room. That's only like if you want to have a lot of different mobile inputs, but the main one here is, well, either add your camera to OBS or you can share your screen. I think you can share a screen from a phone or a tablet now. And you'll want to hit allow, and you can change between the front-facing camera or the back-facing camera, and you can either mute the audio or not. But if I were to go through the steps, I could actually bring in my cell phone's camera into OBS so it's either going to be over the network that you're using if you're connected to Wi-Fi, or cell network, you try to get some Wi-Fi signal if possible, but from what I understand, it's a fairly low latency. It's going to try to do point to point. It's not going to go to like some other server halfway across the country or over into China. It's going to try to get that signal to OBS as fast, in the shortest distance possible. So if you have a special thing where you want to show a camera view for where you don't typically have a camera and you don't want to run a lot of cable and it's just like this one little thing, OBS Ninja, take a cell phone footage and put it in. Plugins and filters, OBS has some built-in ones. You can also download ones as well. I typically use them for audio stuff more than the video stuff. There are some, the only video one maybe would be like a chroma key in case you wanted to use a green screen or key out a color so you can put in your own background. I have not done that a lot. That'd be more like for, I think, content creation than anything else. Not so much for live streams. But compressor and limiter for audio is kind of nice. If you right click on your audio source and then hit filters, the limiter should, if it's working correctly, if the eyeball is not X'd out, you can set the audio level at which the limiter will kick in, and it will not allow the audio to go above that. So you don't have to worry about it clipping, at least in OBS. The compressor is a little bit more involved because of how a compressor works. You've got a lot of different variables. I'm not going to go into this. Maybe let Phil take compression, as that may be a little bit more of his expertise. But what a compressor is, I think we already talked about this, takes an audio signal, if your pastor has a really dynamic speaking voice where he'll go from whisper quiet to yelling within a sermon, it's hard to account for like, okay, where do we want the audio set for this? Because we want people to be able to hear everything. The compressor will take those very different volume levels and bring them closer together. And so that the threshold sets like at what volume do you want the compressor to go into effect. If you want a lot of compression, then you set it a lot lower. Attack and release is like how fast, because it's in milliseconds, how fast do you want the compressor to go in and out. The ratio is how much compression there is. So if you set a really high ratio, it's going to compress it a lot, like put a lot of a cap on it. A lower ratio doesn't put as much of a cap on it. And then usually when you compress something, it's quieter. So you need to compensate with output gain to actually bring it back up to that normal output level, like around -10, -6 for a healthy, what was the term you used, like nominal audio input gain for YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like that was a lot. Any questions over on that part? Anything you want to see done? After I'm done too, if we have time, you're more than welcome to monkey around on this.
Seems real simple now.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Because I know it can be overwhelming.
Then you must not be.
I'm not getting
it.
it.
There are a lot of different ways to think about using OBS.
Yeah.
And that was a bit, when we first got started, I talked to some different people, and there's ways to set this up, because you have to think about your workflow. What is as you're going through the service, what are you gonna do from one piece of the service to the next, to the next, to the next? What do you want it to look like? And then how do you set up like OBS to walk through from step to step to step? And a lot of different ways to do it.
So like the general, the pre-service, be pretty lame, pretty still, just maybe a big shot. But then as your pastor comes out and says his introductions, you might focus on him at that point. Then you go into your first hymn, you might split the screen or
You might
lay the words over the.
Right. Yeah. And so like you go into a hymn, you can bring your slides in somehow, and that's where we use one of the video effects, and you can make the slide piece transparent and throw the video behind it. So that's what hymns look like.
And that you're all doing. Somebody's doing that, making that happen live.
No. So you preset your scene. So somebody presets all this up. So then live, all that somebody is doing is selecting and activating that scene. And everything, all of those different sources, so audio sources, video sources, pictures, websites, all of those different things in that scene collection of different elements is then activated and shown up on there.
So bear with me if I'm being really slow in getting this, but so like a hotkey maybe or something where you start here, and then when he's going to his announcements, you might hit that would be another scene selection or a hotkey or something, and then you go into the first hymn and you're gonna hit that, and it's gonna.
Yep, that's one.
So there might be 30 different changes
Could be
throughout
a lot of different scenes.
service.
Yep. And some people will set it up where it's different camera angles, and then your slide input, and so you might have like 4 or 5 scenes, and you just switch between them. We set it up like each element in the service was a different scene, so we had a whole long list of like 30 different scenes for a service, but we actually put the words and everything into there.
And there is, this is that student again that did this, and I haven't played around with it ever since, but with the Stream Deck, he was playing around with it to the point where, I don't know how deep he had to go, but he pressed one button and it changes a scene in OBS, and it also instructs a PTZ camera to go to a preset.
Yeah. So a lot, and we do that too, but some of the PTZ cameras, if there is well, there's a couple ways to do it, but the one we use is if you type in a certain URL, so the IP address of the camera, and then a little code, it will tell that, just typing that in, will tell the camera to go to a certain PTZ preset. And so we created a little, it's like a website, and then we shrunk it way down small, and you can add a website source to it, and when that scene becomes activated, it activates that IP address and sends the camera to that preset. So the person operating it is changing the camera angles, but doesn't have to know what they're doing. The person signing it up has to know. But
It's kind of reminds me of COVID when we were looking around for churches to watch and came across one and said, wow, well, why doesn't the camera follow him when he walks over there?
Maybe because I had this at my first church out of MLC. They had, and this was just for recording, they had a PTZ camera with just a remote. They didn't have a controller. They just had a recording to a DVD recorder. And so if the pastor went somewhere that you didn't have a preset for, you were kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
You had to scramble or just go to a wide shot. Just go to a default wide shot so you could capture what you needed to.
during COVID, we put tape down on the floor.
Spike tape for the pastor.
Yeah, you must stay. These are your limits.
I should show you this. What is it called? We had a student. Yeah, here it is. We had a student because we have guest preachers come in from the different Federation churches, and we would start to rate them with how much they wandered from the podium. So it's like the different levels for your NWS alerts, where purple is your unpredictable. Like this one pastor, he would walk from the podium, which is on stage left, and the piano is almost on stage right. And so sometimes he'd walk all the way over to the right hand side of the stage, and so I just tell the operators, okay, you can have your close shot that's like from the back of the PAC, but have the ones on the side, have those as wide shots, and have the whole stage in view just in case, because you never know with them.
Yeah, ours is hardware based, where we have presets already put in for. We have one camera controls everything for what we view. It's just centrally located down the main aisle up above. We have presets set in for the lectern. Then this past Sunday, this pastor decided to get mobile. And decided to go to the left side. So okay, use the joystick, move it over, instead of trying to set up a separate preset. You want to try getting his actual facial expressions and emotion as he's doing it. So I could have done to the whole wide shot, but then it kind of disinfects it a little bit for the shot. So
I don't know if I've done a job of dissuading you from using OBS or of adopting it. It's just I picked this one because this is what I'm most used to. What I kind of
They had me at free.
yeah. So just to remind you, like, kind of what the bare bones is: camera into a computer in whatever way you can get it, either capture card or just direct USB. Because, like we mentioned before, these Fumaco ones have a USB out that you don't need any other hardware for. And then, however much consideration you're giving to audio, give it a little bit more, because those are going to be where your problems come up. And I don't think it can be said enough. People will deal with suboptimal video. They will not deal with suboptimal audio. So that's my 2 cents on the bare minimum setup. Ken also mentioned and wanted me to show you what it would be like to stream just from your phone. If you needed to stream just from your phone, I would suggest trying to get like a DJI, or I think he's got a different brand one, a little clip-on Bluetooth microphone that can connect to a phone. And Yeah, as I was playing around with this, I don't think you even need YouTube Studio. I think you just need the YouTube app on your phone. And if you bring it up, and this was just a couple weeks ago, so I don't think it's updated since then. There's the plus sign down there. And when you click that, you can scroll over and you can get to live. That will allow you, presumably, I did not do this because this is my own account. Presumably, this would allow you to go live just from the YouTube app on a phone. When I just did a quick Google search and looked at their information page, this is what it said about streaming on mobile. You need at least 50 subscribers. And again, this was just looked up a couple of weeks ago. So if you needed to do that, you would need to get a lot of people subscribed very quickly. Hopefully, if you just have a congregation of at least 50 people, then if you just require them to do that,
It's a bullet and insert.
it just not URL, the QR code.
Get a QR code.
QR code, something like, hey, since you're here, you gotta, before we let you leave, before we let you get the coffee and donuts, you gotta subscribe. No live streaming restrictions within the last 90 days on the channel. Verify the channel. I think that's just a email thing. And again, the 24-hour wait period. And there's just some device settings or device OS things that are required, but most phones are at that or above. With 10 minutes to spare, that's all I've got. So I'm going to close out the live stream here to Ken's channel. Bye, everyone.